In this video, we'll be talking about the mammal skeleton, different positions of the hind foot, and some about external measurements. So when we're talking about hind feet, there are three different positions that we talk about based on how the skeleton is set up. This first one we call plantigrade. This means that the foot is flat on the ground, meaning if you look at the heel is touching the ground. Like us, we are plantigrade. Our heel and the toes and everything in between is touching the ground. Same with this mink here, same with rodents and opossums. The other term, digitigrade, refers to a back foot, where the heel is in the air, but the toes are all on the ground. So if you can imagine, kind of like this, where this part is in the air and these parts are all touching the ground. These digitigrade animals include cats and dogs. If you think about, a dog you've seen, that bit that's pointing backwards is not a backwards knee, but it's just the heel. And then the knee is up here. Last term, unguligrade, refers to an animal where only the toe is touching the ground. So here in this bison hoof, we see that these are the toenails that are touching the ground, but the rest of the foot is in the air. You can see that again here with some skeletons. So here we have a horse foot. There is only one bone touching the ground. And then here in this even-toed ungulate, you can see the toe touching the ground at the very tip, but the rest of the toes are in the air, and then the heel is going to be way up here. So the reason why animals have these different stances is because of how they move. If you're a plantigrade animal and your entire foot is on the ground, that is not as good for running. But if you're digitigrade or unguligrade and you have less contact with the ground, then you can move faster. So while we're talking about the overall bodies of animals, let's also talk a bit about external measurements. So if you have a museum specimen like this, it's going to have a tag, and on this tag will be some numbers. This is what those numbers look like for this particular species. So these numbers represent the size of the animal taken before it was stuffed. And these numbers are, in order, the total length, including the tail length only, the hind foot length, and the ear length. It's always in that order. So total, tail, hind foot, ear. And then also the mass. So the way I think about this, if you imagine an animal like a cat or a dog, it goes from largest to smallest. We'll talk about these measurements later when we get to particular species such as weasels, where you need to have the measurements to identify the skins.